Today's video is about venue shopping. Just as people shop for a venue for where they can hold their wedding, political actors think about where they might have the most success. Venue shopping refers to efforts to get the policy dealt with in that venue. When we say venue, we have in mind places like the courts, or the executive branch, or the legislature, or at the ballot box via an initiative. And really, we are thinking whether a given group is using one of these venues versus another, such as the state versus the federal level, or in one congressional committee versus another congressional committee. As an example, think about a situation where unions and small businesses are in conflict. Would the unions rather have that dealt with in the Small Business Committee or the Health, Education, and Labor Committee? As a slight detour, I want to introduce the term iron triangle. This refers to the case where legislators, bureaucrats, and interest groups are providing direct benefits to each other. For instance, legislators provide bureaucrats with funding for programs. In return, bureaucrats provide legislators with information to help them make policy choices. Similarly, legislators provide interest groups with friendly legislation and oversight, while interest groups provide legislators with support in elections. Iron triangles do not describe all policy situations. Instead, they are most likely to form when there is low demand for oversight. As an example, vaping, in particular Juul, was initially viewed very favorably. It seemed as though Juul was going to be a healthy alternative to smoking and would help smokers quit. For this reason, there wasn't much demand for oversight, and Juul seemed to be part of an iron triangle. That changed as vaping became viewed as more dangerous. First, there were concerns that vaping was being marketed to teens. Second, concerns emerged that vaping could really be bad for one's health, in some cases worse than smoking. Once these concerns were raised, the iron triangle was broken, and vaping started to see a lot more scrutiny and oversight. I'm going to conclude with a specific example about forests in British Columbia, Canada. In the Clayoquot Sound, logging was part of the local industry. And up until the 1980s, conditions were such that there was an iron triangle, in part because the public just wasn't very attentive to this issue. As a result, there were just a few companies that were looking for rights to log, and these companies received light regulation. Starting in the 1980s, environmentalists got involved, trying to change things, and eventually they started to get more press coverage, especially in the early 90s. However, the press coverage alone was not what changed the outcome. Instead, the environmentalists were successful because they changed the venue that dealt with the issue. So first, they had tried to work with local leaders and bureaucrats at the Ministry of Forests. This didn't work, in large part because these politicians were also worried about the impact that stopping logging would have on the local economy. Similarly, when they tried to work with the NDP, which was a party with green policy positions, it didn't change things, in part because they also worried about the economic impact that would happen if the logging industry was hurt. But the third time was the charm. After failing in their other attempts, they targeted the buyers of the product, and they successfully got them to stop purchasing trees that had been logged from that area. They were successful when they targeted buyers because the buyers didn't care about the local economic impact. They were able to buy the wood they needed from other sources, and that's just what they did. After targeting the buyers in the 1990s, there was a steep drop in logging in the area as the demand for their product dried up. The takeaway point is that groups that successfully venue shop are able to be more successful in changing outcomes. That's it for this video. Keep asking questions, keep studying, and keep safe.